All right, looks like we have a few stragglers still coming in here, but we'll get started. Okay, everybody, I do appreciate you coming to our webinar today. We are going to go over quite a few fun things. It's going to be pretty fast-paced, and I'm going to just dive right into it, and then I'm going to open up to questions at the end as well. And so right now, everybody's on mute until the Q&A time, and I'll try to leave plenty of time for Q&A at the end. So what we're going to talk about today is a few things that are happening out in the world in regards to trends that we're seeing. A little bit about us, first of all, is we run a company called NetWatcher. We're a managed detection and response company. We deal a lot with financial institutions, a lot of companies that have to deal with FINRA and GLBA, and then we also have a lot of other customers that are law firms, tax firms, and we basically do a very high-end version of managed security for them, and we try to do it in a way that makes a lot of sense financially for them and provide a lot of value. So with that, today I'm going to talk to you about some of the trends we see out there that are hitting financial institutions specifically. I'm going to talk to you about what managed detection and response is, because it's a new Gartner category, and it's something that everybody that's interested in security should know, because it's going to be probably one of the biggest trends that happen in security over the next few years. And then I'll talk to you a little bit about what NetWatcher does and how we can actually do some of the items that we do for our customers at the price we do them at. And hopefully you'll be impressed by that. So with that, let's just jump into the trends and go from there. So let's see. So, well, before we get into the trends, I'm sure I don't have to remind everybody on the call why you're probably here. You have to deal with some of the interesting compliance regimes that are out there, specifically Gramm-Leach-Bliley Act and the safeguarding rule, and that's really what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk specifically about those technical safeguards or the technical items that support the safeguards rule. Obviously, the safeguards rule deals a lot with policies and plans and how you run the organization, and the technical items are typically the things that kind of keep an eye on the fact that you were doing those policies and regulations, and that's really can be quite complex. And so that's really what our focus is on here. So the safeguards rule, specifically the technical side of it. So let's just get into the first trend that we see out there and why really NetWatcher does what it does. Over the last several years, we've seen across the spectrum of small, medium, and large companies, we've seen a security sophistication really stack that goes on. And if you look at what large companies like Morgan Stanley and others are doing at the very high end level, the people that really lead the market, they've been doing threat intelligence, utilizing SIMs and using endpoint technology, intrusion detection, intrusion protection for many, many years, over 10, 15 years, and they're very good at it. And obviously there's still exploits that occur there, but they are very good at it, and they really set the standards for the rest of the world. But when it comes down to it, there's a whole lot of attention placed on those, Fortune 5000 in the U.S. because they spend a majority of the money on security. And so all the 3,500 vendors that are out there in the security world, really, most of them call on those large accounts. And that comes with a cost. The items that they produce, the tools that they produce, tend to be written in a way that only security analysts understand them. They tend to be very high priced. They tend to be built for that Fortune 5000. And alongside of that, a lot of the middle market companies, some of the big hospitals and some of the bigger firms, consulting firms, et cetera, did not find that they could go and manage the infrastructure that these large companies were buying themselves, and so they wanted to outsource it and pay less by sharing their security analysts across many other accounts. And so this business model over the last several years of managed security services came about. And you see companies out there that, come in and they'll charge you $7,000 a month to manage your security. And what they do is they put, one warm body on top of your account and several other accounts, and you get economies of scale that way. But it's still using those old tools and having to put, somebody that's looking at it all the time on top of this. And that model really doesn't scale either. It just works in that top end of the middle market. And so when you look at the rest of the market out here, it's really, a lot of organizations depend on these managed security or managed services providers. These companies that come in and they'll install your servers, they'll install your desktops, they'll even take care of your phones, they'll help you with your backups, they'll deal all the nuisance stuff that you have to deal with from a technology standpoint, and they manage it for you. And it's a low-cost business, and there's thousands and thousands of these managed services providers out there. But what they do is they tend to have a managed firewall and a managed antivirus, and that's the end of it from a security perspective. And so what's happened is there's this giant gap in the market for the haves and the have-nots when it comes to security. And there's a bunch of reasons for it, but it's primarily driven by a couple different things. One is the cost of these tools, and the other is who the tools are written for. And that really is drawing up a gigantic problem for the world, and it's something that has to be dealt with. And you all feel the pain of this every day, I'm sure, because your customers are demanding it. Your regulators are demanding that you actually become more secure and actually start utilizing some of the more expensive technologies and start being more sophisticated about how you handle your security and what you expect from your suppliers as well, which is a whole different set of problems for most organizations and how they do vendor risk management. And so this is really that pent-up problem that we're trying to deal with here. And it's because these solutions are too expensive, they're too difficult to use, and the talent really doesn't exist out there, which really leads me to the next trend that we're seeing. So trend number one is huge pent-up demand in the middle market and below on security, and not a lot of solutions for folks out there. And so that's trend number one. And that's where managed detection and response really comes in. And our estimate in the U.S., there's 22 million companies. We feel like there's about 5 million companies that kind of fit in this mold here, of which 30% of them have to deal with some form of compliance regime. And that's really what it's all about. And so trend number two, which it correlates very well with trend number one, is the fact that even if you could buy those expensive tools, there really aren't any. There's nobody out there that knows how to use them in regards to the talent pool. I pulled this little chart off of a website called Indeed.com, which looks at the job market in the U.S. and you can see a lot of job postings there. And I pulled probably one of the most sought after jobs in the IT world, which is DevOps, against the old school network administrator, which thousands and thousands of those people exist, and everybody needs them. And I put a security analyst against that, and you can just see how many jobs are out there for security analysts, how many open jobs. It's absolutely incredible. And the fact is that most of the folks that have this on their resume, they know how to use a tool, but they don't actually know how to find or solve a problem when it comes to cybersecurity, because cybersecurity is one of those things that it's incredibly complex to know how to look for something bad happening going on in the organization. It's not just needing to know how a network works or how a system works. You need to know how bad actors think and how they enter into an enterprise and how they take advantage of an enterprise. And so it's somebody that has some business acumen as well as an incredibly deep technical acumen. And then they know how to solve problems and understand how other people cause problems. So the shortfall is actually much bigger than this. This says Frost & Sullivan said there's 1.5 million security openings out there over the next few years. I actually personally think it's much higher than this. We interview security folks all day long. And we know that, it's 1 out of 100 that actually knows what they're doing. And we have a very thorough questioning and interview process and background check that they have to go through before they come to work here. And it's really hard to find talent like this. And we build a lot of our own talent as well. We know exactly what we need and how to invest in people to build it. So this is another thing you're faced with is the fact that even if you could buy those expensive tools, you wouldn't be able to find anybody to run them. So the next trend really is about what's happening in the world and how bad actors are taking advantage of customers. And you would think, a lot of press gets put out there about these items called 0 days, and and that's all great and it makes great headlines. But the reality behind it is the fact that that's really a rare case in many regards. It's out there and it's definitely bad, but is that what's going to hit you first? 99% of our customers, when somebody attacks them, it's really getting attacked by these known vulnerabilities, these things that already exist out there. They are, bugs that everybody from Microsoft and Apple and Oracle have in their software. I just pulled this from CVE Details, the vulnerability list over the last many years of each one of these vendors, and they actually count how many vulnerabilities have been there, and what is the priority or what is the severity of the vulnerability. And you can see that Microsoft has 1,771 very, very serious vulnerabilities out of the 4,300 that CVE Details categorized, which is about 41% of their vulnerabilities have a serious way that some bad actor could take advantage of that. And it's unfortunate, as soon as these vendors post these CVEs out there, somebody figures out how to take advantage of that and creates an exploit for it. And so, it really kind of is a strange circle, but it is what it is. And if you look at the worst one down here, Adobe, this is all about Flash. Flash is just an evil. It was a great functionality many years ago, but the amount of vulnerabilities and bad actors have been able to take advantage of Flash. If you take away one thing from this presentation, do not allow Flash to run in your organization. It is by far what we see as NetWatcher, by far the worst, the easiest thing to take advantage of from a bad actor standpoint. And in many ways, a user running Flash doesn't even have to click on something. They just go to a website, and a bad ad on that website can take advantage of Flash and actually give you ransomware. And so what the whole point here is that, the 0 day thing might make the press, but how most customers are going to get attacked is one of these known vulnerabilities that are out there. And if you really think about it, folks that are doing this are in organized crime or in foreign governments, and they're not the people that have the skills to actually go build a new 0 day. Very few people have the skill set to do that. These are the people, they just take advantage of other things that have been published on the market, and it is what it is. So that's another trend. Another thing is, everybody's heard about ransomware, and I'm sure everybody on the call has experienced it in some way. I don't have to get into it, all the different forms of ransomware that have come out just in the last year and a half. There's been hundreds of variations of this, and that's really not not the point here. The point here is ransomware as a service is the thing that is very troublesome that's going on now. I pulled this little ad here that you see for crypto locker service off the dark web. This was, somebody, it's this company called FakeBin that's, basically a bad actor selling their crypto service, and they're selling it for a price. And this is allowing any bad actor to come download their binaries, pay them money, and once you distribute the binary, the money goes back to this crypto service, and then gets split up between the person that bought the service and them. They keep their 10 or 20%, and it's a great business model. And there's actually ads out there on the dark web for items like this. So there's bad actors creating ads on the dark web for other people to buy these services. That's how bad it's gotten. And this is like foreign organized crime. Imagine when the U.S. organized crime really gets into this and realizes how easy it is to make money here. We're just at the forefront of this stuff. This stuff's going to get worse over time. So the next one is really what we refer to as the unintentional insider threat. That's what Gartner calls this part of it. Actually, at NetWatcher, we've called this cyber promiscuity. That's our trademark for it. It's what users do. And unfortunately, in today's world, it's not the bad actor breaking into the front door. So if you think about your firewall as the front door to your office or your credit union or financial institution, that front door, you can either lock it or leave it open. What happens here is, everybody's got a front door, which is called a firewall, and everybody's got antivirus. But unfortunately, what ends up happening today, it's all the users in the organization that do things on a daily basis that open the front door to the bad actor. And so no firewall blocks that, no antivirus blocks it efficiently. And clicking on phishing messages is obviously what everybody gets trained on and hears of, but there are other things as well that go on. People going to explicit websites, people downloading software like BitTorrent and Tor, and VPN software that like Hola, free VPN software. Be very careful of that. If you allow people to download free VPN software, if you haven't downloaded it from a credible source, it may be doing things to your machine that you don't want it to do. There was a bunch written up about this Hola early on when it first came out, that it actually allowed your traffic or allowed your bandwidth to be used by foreign sources. So you never know what you're getting into. If you download Tor and use Tor, you never know if the exit node you pop out on is owned by some nation state, and they can see everything you're doing in clear text. So don't trust these things for what they are. They're risky pieces of software, and if you don't know what you're doing with them, you can actually cause yourself much more harm. And then using vulnerable software, I talked about Flash. Java is just as bad. If you don't keep your Java up to date, that could be just as bad as Flash. We've seen ransomware attacks just on old versions of Java as well. And then the one that we see all the time, which is really unfortunate, is people sending PII or personally identifiable information in clear text over the internet. And unfortunately, this, even with the onset of HTTPS, if you go into your browser and you type HTTP or HTTPS in front of the URL, HTTPS is going to make sure that people can't see what's going on there. It's an encrypted connection, but people still go out there and they log into sites using HTTP, or it's base 64 encrypted, which is any 5-year-old can decrypt it. And so we see this on a daily basis across all of our customers as well. And the only thing that can help here is you train the people not to do it, and you tell them when they are doing it. And then hopefully sites over the next several years will just lock out the HTTP side of it and force HTTPS. And then let's hope that Google's Chrome and Microsoft's Internet Explorer get a little better at mandating that some of these things are a little better at what they do. But we see this all the time. This is a little graphic from our user interface that shows you somebody has been using clear text passwords, and it's really crazy, but it is what it is. So the next trend is really about the supply chain. And, the banking community, the credit union community, the financial services community in general is pretty good at this. I've seen, most of the time the banks really ask for their vendors to actually fill out surveys that they have to say, what they're doing from a cybersecurity perspective. We do that when we, as a vendor to many banks and credit unions. We actually have to fill out these surveys all the time. So we know that it does happen in this community. If it doesn't happen, you should mandate that your vendors go through some cybersecurity screening, whether or not, if they are going to have any type of your data. You need to have clauses in your contracts that mandate they have cybersecurity insurance, that they are indeed doing vulnerability scans, and they're doing continuous monitoring. And so, and then obviously your customers are going to do it to you as well. And so, I don't have to tell you, because I'm sure that a great deal of the business clients that you have are forcing you to sign these same things, because you have very important data to them. And so this shouldn't be new to you, but we're seeing it everywhere. And, early on, we just saw it with the healthcare organizations, because HIPAA forced something called the BAA, the business agreement, or the business associate agreement, down on the vendors. So anybody that deals with a healthcare organization ends up taking the risk and liability for PII specifically. And so anybody that works in that world understands this. And we're now starting to see other verticals play out here as well, in mandating the same thing. It's not part of the compliance regimes yet, like it is in HIPAA, but I'm sure it will be eventually. We're starting to see it, like in New York State. They have the New York CRR 500 that the Department of Financial Services has put there in New York State, and we're starting to see it there. So we know that if it's happening in New York State, it's probably going to happen anywhere or everywhere. And we're already seeing other states talk about it. So I would expect this to be happening quite a bit. Trend number 7, open source. This is a giant problem for our U.S. government. Our U.S. government has put thousands of solutions on the internet, basically web solutions, websites that you can log in. And, one that I know a lot about is Customs and Border Protection. They actually have a site where you put in your ship manifest if you're a shipper, and you have to register certain things 24 hours before, 48 hours before you come into the U.S. Well, these are thousands of sites like this at every government agency, whether or not it's state, local, or federal. Federal, obviously being the biggest, has the most. These things are built with these open source stacks, which is fine, and open source is great and works really well. But we saw with healthcare.gov what happened there. They didn't even have an inventory for all the open source and the versions of things that were put into the first version of healthcare.gov. And I think that made the press, and everybody got to look at it and saw what was going on there. But the reality is there's 100,000 other sites out there that are built with these open source stacks, and nobody has any inventory of what has gone into it, or what version of Java is being used in this part of it versus another part of it. And when the bad actor has access to the source code, they know how to get around within it, and they know how to exploit these old things. And if you don't keep all those different versions of all those binaries up to date on your open source solutions, somebody's going to take advantage of it. And we're seeing it all the time. And so we look out for it quite a bit, and we always warn on it. But we see this open source, different components that have issues being taken advantage of all the time. So this I put in here, whether or not this is your customer or not. I put in here other things that are going on that are just miscellaneous that we see as a managed security company all the time. We basically see, companies with only firewalls and antivirus that really have no security controls in place. They have no cyber liability insurance. Their employees are not being trained on cyber. They just have admin access to all their machines out there, so the people can install anything they want. They have not signed any employee policy documents that limit their liability. So we see this stuff all the time. And that's really unfortunate, because if those companies are in anybody's supply chain, that is a really bad thing. And these aren't just small miscellaneous companies. These are law firms. These are tax firms. These are big organizations that should know better. But unfortunately, it is what it is. We see it with a lot of defense contractors all the time. And it's kind of crazy. And when they go to put our services in, we show them several different compromises that have been going on for years. And the first question they ask us is, "How long do you think that's been going on?" And we're like, "Well, we don't really know. It's impossible to tell, because we just got installed in this environment, and you've been wide open for how many years?" So we get it stopped, but who knows what they stole up to that point. We also see people not keeping firmware up to date on their routers and their Wi-Fi's and their firewalls. I don't know if the Heartbleed exploit that happened out there. I can't tell you how many other of these Wi-Fi's, even your home. This is something. If you take another thing away from this, go home and make sure that your Wi-Fi has up-to-date firmware and that you don't have a default password on it. Because those are the things that get exploited, and you don't even know you're being exploited as well. So, but it's not just in your home. It's all your organization needs to keep these things up to date as well. And unfortunately, many don't change their default passwords. And then, on top of that, most organizations don't know who their people are talking to. We produce this chart as one of the widgets in our portal, and it always blows our customers away to show them how many times their people have talked to assets in China or in Iran or in Korea, or in some place that they don't want them talking to, or how many times China has actually made it through the firewall and is talking to an asset internally. They're always shocked when they see that. And when you go look at it, it's obvious they left some port open, or they did something that they shouldn't be doing, and their architecture should be set up a little bit differently. But it is what it is, and it's in every network. It's not just some networks, it's everywhere. All right, so I'm going to take a detour here just a little bit and show you how bad this is, because I'm going to show you how easy it is to exploit somebody out there. I always say that it's so easy that any 12-year-old can do it. So now the people that are attacking you aren't 12-year-olds. The people that are attacking you are going to be some organized crime unit, that has 1,000 people in an office, or they're just looking to put ransomware everywhere. And if they go after 1,000 organizations and they hit 10 of them, they'll still make good money. But at the end of the day, any 12-year-old can do some of this stuff. They can just, here's an example. The first thing they do, and you can pull this up right on your computer right now, go to defaultpasswords.com, and it's all the default passwords for any device out there when it comes down to hardware. So this is firewalls, Wi-Fi's, etc. Because all these devices, they have to have some type of default password. Your job when you install it, or your IT's job or MSP's job when they install it, is to change that default password. But you would be surprised how many times that doesn't happen. So you can go to defaultpasswords.com. Then you log in and register to this site called Shodan. You go to shodan.io. It's kind of a hacker's Google. It basically, they scan the internet around the world looking for open tunnels and open ports and open exploits that are out there, and then they categorize them. And you should know whether or not your IP address is listed here. So another thing you should take away from this is go to Google and say, what is my external IP address? What is my IP? Grab that and throw it into Shodan and see if you show up. Because if you do, you probably have an issue. and because you've been scanned and you've probably been categorized in here somewhere for some reason, you just have to understand why they put you in here. So you go to Shodan.io and you do a search for the device you want to find in default passwords. I grabbed a little WAP 54G. It's a Linksys Wi-Fi router. I threw it in there. I found a whole bunch of them got listed. I think there were total results of 300 of them that I found there. And I just took the first one. And I clicked on the link to it, and boom, it brought me to this thing right here. And you know what? I typed in the user account and password, or the default password, on the very first one I found. And you know what? I got in, right? And now I have full access to this Wi-Fi router. I can do just about anything I want on this, including sniffing. I can do anything I want with it, right? I can turn it off so they can't use it, or I can upgrade some bad firmware to it. I can do just about anything I want to it right now. And so this is, any 12-year-old knows how to do this. So if you're not keeping up with this stuff, any 12-year-old, if they could do it, imagine what somebody with a little more sophistication that does it all day long, every day, to hundreds or thousands of people can do to your network. So is it going to get better or worse? Unfortunately, I have some bad news. Even though there's much more protection coming out, like companies like us, and more MDR stuff and more innovation, keeping up with the fact that U.S. organized crime really hasn't got into this stuff yet, and is going to eventually, and because it's so easy to make money at it, as I just showed you, and there's a kind of a something that cuts across this, unfortunately, is people desire more privacy, which is good, and there needs to be a great balance here, and I'm all for privacy. Don't take this the wrong way, but the more desire for privacy, it can be pushed beyond the fact that it actually can work against you a bit in regards to security. And there's much more surface to attack over the next several years as well. Just see some of the stuff that's on the right there on what the projections are of new phones and data and cloud computing devices, or cloud access there is over in the future. And then at the end of the day, especially in the U.S., people just want convenience. And unfortunately, convenience can come with a cost if not done well, and if misarchitected. And this is the problem with small to medium business. They can't always afford the people that know really what they're doing, and to a really nth degree, and people do make mistakes, and so this isn't going to get better. It's only going to get worse, and all you can do is protect yourself against it, unfortunately, and that's what we're here to talk about. So I'm gonna stop there. That's the first section of what we're going to talk about here, and I'm now going to talk a little bit about what managed detection and response is. This is a new category for Gartner. They don't have a magic quadrant for it yet. And they put us in this category. There's about 5 pure play managed detection and response companies. We're one of them. But then there's a whole bunch of other companies that see this, see what's happening here, and are jumping on the bandwagon and using it as marketing, saying, hey, we're managed detection and response. And we're starting to see it from almost every security company out there. And just in the US, there's 3,500 of those. So there's a lot of them in the world. But you're going to hear much more about managed detection and response. What it is, it's 2 things, very simple. So if you remember what the old school managed security services provider was, which was, let's get warm bodies to utilize well-trodden tools like SIMs and IDSs, in other words, intrusion detection, log aggregation, and net flow analysis, and host intrusion detection, and things like that. Putting warm bodies on top of that, that's what a managed security services provider does, right? Gives you warm bodies. Well, managed detection and response is to automate the role of that warm body. That's the first thing it does. And the reality is, because there's not enough security analysts in the world, and we only have more events that are indicators of compromise every single day, with the more data we have, more devices we have more to look at. And the target breach that everybody has talked way too much about, they have a whole team of security people, and all they do is look at that stuff, and they still did not catch the breach, even though that there were alarms that it was happening. And so, unfortunately, the manpower problem doesn't work to solve this. There has to be machine learning. There has to be automation. There has to be cloud computing overlaid on top of this, so that automation doesn't miss it because it doesn't get tired. It's there 24/7, and it's on top of all this data all the time. And so managed detection and response is automation and cloud computing. And you really need the cloud computing piece of it because it has to, really deal with high-end data sets, very large data. And it's that very large data that really is the most important piece of the equation here. And so that's what it is. And then what it will lead to over the course of the next several years is automation on the response. Right now, the response primarily for these MDR companies is to help you understand what to do and to give you support while you're doing it. But what you'll find is over the next few years, there's going to be a lot of automation on that side of it as well. I know that that's what we're working on right now, is to be the leading edge provider of that automation on the response side as well. And I think over the course of the next 10 years, everybody will be an MDR provider. So with that, I'm going to talk a little bit about what NetWatcher does for the next few minutes here, because we are an MDR provider. Other people refer to us as a continuous monitoring provider. Other people refer to us as a managed security provider. But what we are is basically this: we're not antivirus or managed antivirus, and we're not the firewall. All of our customers have some form of antivirus, anti-malware, and a firewall. We're the guys in the middle. We watch what's happening on the wire. We watch what's happening in the logs. We look for indicators of compromise. We do all that in the cloud. And so when something trips on the firewall, and then a second later it trips on the endpoint, and then a second later we see it on the IDS, we can correlate those three things together over time and on a specific asset to figure out how bad something is and what to do about it. Is it spreading? How to shut it down? And build that intelligence quickly within a few seconds, and then notify the customer immediately that it's occurring. This isn't the old MSSP model where the MSP has been working on something in your account for 2 days, 3 days. They're trying to figure it out, and then finally they hit their service level agreement, create a ticket with you, and tell you about it. And your service level agreement is about the time where they made the ticket and told you about it. This is, you immediately know about it as soon as we know about it, right? As soon as the rules engine catches it, the machine learning catches it, you know about it. And so it gets rid of that whole problem in the SLAs around MSSPs. And so, a lot of these compliance regimes call this continuous monitoring. And so you'll see it by many different names. What it means is basically you put sensors inside the network. The sensors can be virtual machines or hardware, but they sit and listen to a copy of the traffic. They don't sit in line because you don't want your security software to be disruptive to your environment. They sit and listen to a copy of it. So real easy to install this stuff. You basically go into your router and say, create a copy of this port to this port. It's really a 5-minute exercise or less. And our intrusion detection software on that sensor listens to it and does the net flow analysis as well. And then you can turn on it as a SIM, so you can actually point your firewall logs to it, your server logs to it, your any device logs to it. And then it also has a vulnerability scanner as well. And all those things produce events. And then a lot of our customers utilize our endpoint technology as well, which is host intrusion detection. Think about it as rootkit monitoring or file integrity monitoring. So is anybody changing that file? In other words, what ransomware does is encrypt something, so it encrypts files, and it actually changes the type of file that you're dealing with there, and so you can see it quickly. And then we have something called Sensor in the cloud as well that basically allows you to track your endpoints when they're not on the corporate network, because it's real important to understand that a lot of exploits happen when your executives or your salespeople are out on insecure Wi-Fi's, either at home or on vacation or on business travel, and you don't want them to bring that home as well. And so one of the big things that our customers love about us is the Sensor in the cloud piece, because we actually can keep track of that corporate asset wherever it is in the world. And then again, all this stuff gets sent back to our cloud service where the real crunching occurs. And then we have a group of security analysts that work with all of our customers. So you think about 30 of the time the data is being looked at by an analyst and 70% of the time by the machine. And those two things tightly coupled are what really create the grade A service for our company around this stuff, and really allow us to do a phenomenal job for our companies and our customers. And we tell our customers about two things. The one is kind of table stakes. We have to tell everybody about exploits, unfortunately, and we hate to do it, but we have to do it. And you'll get a call from, you know, whoever your contacts are from a tech or business perspective. We'll get a call from one of our analysts saying, hey, you've got this exploit. Here's what to do about it. Here's why it's occurring. And you'll see it in your portal as well. And you can actually get SMS and emails about it if you want. But where we try to differentiate ourselves is really what I was referring to as that unintentional insider threat. You want to know the behavior of what's going on in your environment so you can start locking that down and fixing that behavior. Because if you can fix, you know, the behavior of your people so they don't send things over the internet in the clear, and they don't go to nefarious websites, and they don't do these things, if you fix that poor behavior that lets bad actors into your environment, you'll end up fixing your network. And when we build these things, we sell them based on our tenets for building our service. We really focus a lot on accuracy. You know, in the JP Morgan example, you can just tell them false positives all day long, and they'll just hire more security analysts. In the middle market and below, a false positive is a lie. So our accuracy standards are much higher than they have to be in the enterprise world. Ease of installation, of ease of use, all about design. Has to be MSP friendly if you do have a third party managing your network, and it has to be extremely affordable. Hence why you're all here, because of the title of the presentation. So I'm just going to spend 3 or 4 minutes here just walking you around this portal here. Let's make sure I'm still logged in. I'll give you a rundown of what our customer portal looks like. So as soon as you install your sensors or endpoints, you get access to this customer portal. You get 2 scores here. They're both out of 100, 100 being the best you can get, 0 being the worst. But these scores are for the managers. They're meant to tell you, the one on the left, the cyber health score, is meant to tell you how bad your environment is today. And the score on the right is meant to tell you what's your probability of being attacked in the future. So for the course of this webinar, I opened up 2 examples here. I opened up a medium and a high issue. And so I'm going to drive into that medium issue here. And this security is malware on a device that's out there. And this is a Trojan, a Muldrop Trojan. It's basically high-end spyware, steals creds off of the device and then sends them back to some foreign land so they can exploit you. You'll see that, you know, I'm set up as an intermediate, or you can set up as basic. Basic just gives you a basic description of what you're doing, like you're a manager. Intermediate tells your tech people and your help desk what to do. But we give you what the asset is. We tell you a description of, you know, what you need to know about this, written in plain English, our recommendation on what to do about it. And then if you're set up as an intermediate, what our rules engine actually tripped on there to figure it all out. And then if you need help with one of our security analysts, you easily create a ticket there, and you can start working with one of our security analysts as well. Now, I'll also give you an example of a hygiene issue. So this is what I was talking about before, the promiscuity. This is one of the IT folks that actually use Telnet to configure the router for the organization. So when you do this, Telnet puts everything in clear text. Imagine you lose the admin credentials for your router that's coming into your organization. When you do that, you lose everything, right? You've lost full control if somebody grabs onto those credentials. So that would be a really bad thing to have happen there. And then, you know, if you want to see just basic hygiene type issues, you can drive into that as well. There's 21 issues on this network. And these are things like outdated Java on an asset, people using clear text credentials on an asset, people running Tor. You know, you'd never want to see Tor being run on a credit union or a bank or a financial services network, but it looks the same. You know, it tells you what the asset is, tells you everything you never wanted to know about Tor, our recommendation on what to do about it, and the proof that it's happening. And you can, an IT person could drive into that proof there and actually see the PCAPs that are the packets that prove that the person actually did what we say that they did. And then you get all these other really cool widgets that you use here, all the PII coming off your internet and clear text, all the vulnerable software, the risky software, all the events over time, all the score timeline, all the assets that are happening there, and you know, you basically have full access to anything you need in the situational awareness picture of your network. And you can get all this same stuff via reports. We know that you have to build compliance reports, and so we give you the ability to make reoccurring compliance reports, or you can make any type of report you want. And you can come in here and download them anytime. You can give your auditor access to them. They're date and time stamped as well. And then if you have, say you have 30 credit union locations out there and you don't have an MPLS network and everybody goes out different egress points and you had the need for multiple sensors, you could actually point your different logs from your different firewalls all to the sensors that they belong to as well. And we can do an ingestion on those different log devices. And we have 150 different types of devices that we support. But also, if you want to, you can load our endpoint either on your servers or on your desktops, and we will do a couple different things. If you load that software, you can just download the NetAgent right here, put it on any device out there, and turn on the host intrusion detection, or turn on the log monitoring, or that sensor in the cloud piece that I told you that was really popular for our customers, which allows you to monitor those executives or people that take corporate assets off the corporate network. And then the thing that everybody loves about us is we take that health score down to the actual individual asset. So you can figure out in your organization what everybody's score is. And then you can say, okay, we only have room to send 10 people to cyber training. Everybody below an 80 goes to cyber training. And you know, they have a reason to improve their behavior then. And you can tell them exactly why their behavior is bad. And then all this stuff you can have sent to you via email and SMS if you want to, and you can even have that score email sent to your managers via SMS. So that's the post-correlation view. For anybody that has deep technical people as well, we have this advanced tab that offers a much richer view into the actual data that we're sitting on top of to make these claims that we're making here out of your data, and you can go in and actually look at it too. For instance, I've got a few here, like I want to look at all the failed logon attempts. I want to look at all the stuff from China or maybe Russia in my network. And I can just simply click on apply there. And again, our customers, we don't expect them to do this, but if you did want to do it, you could actually go in and create tripwires. Send me an SMS if China or Russia is ever in my network again, and let me know about it so I can dive in and see what they're doing. Or I can create pretty charts for management if I wanted to as well, or I can just dive into the data and get really detailed. I can see the PCAPs, I can do whatever I need to there, or I can, you know, just change the charts and see them any way I need to see them. So that's our platform in a nutshell. We've tried to make security really easy. We've taken all the complexities out of being able to use an IDS or a SIEM or anything that is what the Fortune 500 or Fortune 5000 has done. And really build a bridge there so you don't have to have that experience to do it, and you can work with our team to manage it for you. And you won't become one of these guys. I just went up really quick to privacyrights.org/data breach and searched on credit union, and because I know there's a bunch of credit unions on the phone here, and I found 5 of them just came up really quick. But it is what it is. You don't want to be one of them. And then, you know, we are very committed to this, you know, in regards to financial services. We spend a lot of time with the financial services community. I'll be out talking in June to the conference that's out in San Diego and talking a little bit about all this stuff. So we're very committed to this community and want to work with anybody that has a passion for this from a credit union or a banking or even just a regular financial services organization. So some of the things I'll leave you with, and I'm going to give you this presentation as well, so you'll have it. I'll also make a recording here and send you this video that we're making here for you as well. But you know, the NCUA has a great cyber resources site. I'm sure you all know about it. FFIEC has a great tool to use for you all. There's plenty of other things here, but the one thing on this list here that you have to take a look at is NIST Cybersecurity Framework. I'm sure if you're on this call, you probably already have understood it in gory detail because of all the conferences talk about it. but it is probably the best tool out there in the entire world when it comes to helping you through the pains of cybersecurity from a policy perspective and understanding what to do. And I think we'll find that most organizations are moving towards that tool. So with that, I'm going to just put our contact information up there. I know we've got about 10 minutes here that I've left for Q&A. If you need your own personal demo, or you didn't get these slides, or something happened that you need more information, please get with Lauren Sexton at NetWatcher.com. She runs our sales organization. There's our phone number as well. Our 800 numbers on our website if you wanted to use it. And so I'll leave that up, and I'm going to actually open it up for questions here. And so what questions does anybody have out there? I know there's a whole bunch of you online still, so I know there's a bunch of questions. No? Well, oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
How much does it cost?
So basically, we have a tiered pricing that goes across. For the very smallest, it can be as low as $1,900 a year, and to the very largest, it can be much larger than that. And so what we do is we charge by the number of assets that we're going to manage. So think about if you want to put endpoints out there, we charge our MSRP for the endpoint is $2.50 a month. You'd want to put that on your servers at a minimum. And the price for the IDS is really low. And then the cloud correlation piece of it is low as well. So for most organizations that have one location and like under 50 people to manage, think about $3,500 a year. But when you get multiple locations and more, the price is going to definitely go up. But there are plenty of small organizations like law firms with less than 50 people that we manage for under $3,500 a year. And again, we do that because of all the automation that we have in place. So if you want a specific quote for your organization, please hit up this email address here or phone number, and we will give you a specific quote for your scenario.
Thank you.
Sure. All right. Well, I want to thank everybody. I know I'm seeing a lot of people drop off the call. I want to thank you for your time today. And if I can be of any help, please get in contact with us. And I hope to see you all out in San Diego in June. Okay. Thank you, everybody.